All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about an article out of the National Post, and it's titled Trudeau says government will absolutely return to balanced budget. Again, that seems, I mean, for starters, I would say who actually believes that? Seriously, who actually believes that? But anyway, let's read a little bit about it and see maybe they have a trick up their sleeves here. Ottawa Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says government will absolutely return to balanced budget following the you know what pandemic, saying temporarily spending measures will eventually be wound down. In a wide-ranging year-end interview with CTV's Evan Solomon that aired Sunday, Trudeau was adamant that current levels of pandemic relief would not become permanent expense for taxpayers. The contextual spending we're doing right now is because of you know what, but we are not adding them to the long term pathway, Trudeau said. His comments came as economists and other experts have warned for months against allowing temporary relief budgets benefits to become a fixture in the federal budget. The parliamentary budget officer, in other words, have said that Canada currently has the fiscal space to absorb a massive spike in spending, but a failure to return to normal could create a major fiscal burden down the road. The federal government is preparing to run a $381 billion deficit in 2021. Again, that's the number they're expecting to run again. Who actually thinks that the government's they're going to come under budget on that one? My guess is that they come at least 100 billion over. But anyway, that's just if I had to guess. And meanwhile, Voice plans to widen spending on a raft of social files, from childcare to affordable housing. Other measures include a more generous employment insurance regime are likely to increase federal program spending. Trudeau has also defended his decision to promise another 70 billion to 100 billion in stimulus spending over the next 3 years. Ottawa announced the new spending in its fiscal update in late November, but declined to provide any details about how the funding would be distributed. In the CTV interview, Trudeau said the new stimulus would be needed in addition to the huge piles of cash that households have saved up over the pandemic. A new report last month by CIBC found Canadian households are sitting on a record high 90 billion in excess cash, largely because they had no place to spend the money during the lockdown. Um, and with many receiving cash supports from the government. In its fiscal update, Ottawa referred to the cash pile as preloaded stimulus that would spur economic growth when restrictions are eventually eased. Again, I don't believe that. I think that's a massive Keynesian myth that if you, and I think the data backs it up, although again, the Keynesians would not like you to think that, and that by printing money and giving it to people, it doesn't spur economic growth, right? It doesn't spur economic growth. Um, when this is done and we're allowed to go back to our local favorite pub or restaurant, people are going to rush out, Trudeau said, and that's going to be a great part of the recovery, but that's not going to be enough. There's lots of things that we're going to need to give the economy a boost so we can come roaring back, he said. The Prime Minister also expressed his support of Keystone XL proposed by Calgary-based TC Energy. The future of the pipeline has been questioned after U.S. President-elect Joe Biden said the project would effectively transport tar sands we don't need. Trudeau reiterated his support for the Alberta to Texas pipeline, which has already faced a long line of legal and regulatory hiccups since it was first proposed in 2007. I've been advocating for that pipeline as an important part of continental energy strategy for years. He said, I don't know what his play is here. I'd like, no, you haven't. Like, no, you haven't supported the Keystone this whole time because if you did, I think it would have been done by now. Like, is Trump the reason that it's a hiccup? Like, I don't know why it's the hiccup. Like, I think it's been a hiccup on our end. I don't think it's on their end. But again, now that Biden's in place, the chances of it going through aren't going to happen. I think this is him. This is just him trying to throw some red meat to Alberta right now. Again, maybe they do put it through because again, I think something they know coming out of this is that this whole Canadians are sitting on a bunch of excess cash. Therefore, that's going to be enough to get the economy back to normal coming out of this. I don't think that that's the case. Like businesses don't just magically reappear. That's not how it works, right? That's not how it works. Um, I think not to mention too, a lot of these people have a lot of debt too that they have to pay off, right? So again, yeah, you have some excess cash, but you got a ton of debt as well, right? So I think that's another problem that they're not bringing up, and I think there's other problems that go to show again, just printing money and giving it to people doesn't stimulate an economy. Again, we have data showing that more than 10,000 restaurants, and again going up by the day, have gone out of business in Canada in 2020, and obviously still going to this day. So again, this idea that these restaurants are just going to magically reappear, I don't think that that's the case, and I don't know why they're suggesting that. But anyway, Canada will also continue to be an oil exporting nation 20 years from now, Trudeau said, even in his government laid out as his government laid out stricter environmental policies earlier this month to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Those plans include a sharp increase to the carbon tax and other industry regulated programs, of which some oil and gas supports say runs counter to the long-term viability of the fossil fuel sector. Even as we transform our economy, there will still be a need for the next few decades for fossil fuels and their various forms, Trudeau said. And again, he's right about that. But I mean, if that's the case, why are you trying to regulate the industry out of existence? Why are you making it incredibly unprofitable for Canadian businesses to do the job when the demand is still there? Forcing other areas to pick up the demand. Again, it doesn't make any sense. But um, again, now they go on to talk about the We Charity and stuff. I'm not going to bring that garbage up. But anyway, again, the whole point of this being is that number one, who actually thinks that they're going to return to a balanced budget? Like, who actually thinks that they're going to return to a balanced budget? Again, we have massive, like, again, they didn't bring up anything. Like, what's their plan for getting unemployment in check? Like, what was their plan? And this is the thing that I've been bringing up for a long time too, is that going into the pandemic, right? Going into the pandemic, we had consecutive quarters of, I think it was zero point 0.3 and 0.1% growth. That is literally within millimeters of recession levels of growth. Like people, they're talking like we had this great economy prior to the pandemic. I mean, if you even want to call it that, I wouldn't call it that. Again, so people don't seem to realize, and the government doesn't seem to realize either. I think they do realize, but I just think that they're trying to kick the can down the road as much as they can, and that we're not going to magically recover out of this into this good economy. Even an average economy, we're not going to recover out of this into. We are going to recover out of this into a recession. We have 9% unemployment right now, and if anything, that number is going up by the day, right? Again, I haven't heard the latest numbers, but Ontario's doubling down on lockdowns. Alberta hasn't came out with. I really hope they reopen, because again, we're scheduled not reopen to get rid of the some of the current restrictions about a week from now. So again, like I, I don't know how they legitimately see their way out of this, because again, this is another thing too. This whole virus situation is going to be with us at least for the next year. Like it'll probably die down a little bit again over the summer, and it'll come roaring back again next winter, at least to some degree, right? At least to some degree. And some provinces, maybe all of them again, at least the major ones, will be dumb enough to shut down again. Like, again, I don't really seem to understand the thinking here. Again, I do understand the thinking, because the thinking is to become more and more socialistic. The goal is to have a bigger and bigger government, but I guess a better way of putting it is, I don't understand why the average person is dumb enough to go through with it. But again, when you think about it logically there, well, the average person is just so low information, it's not even funny. So again, that is why they go along with it. So again, what's going to come out of this is that they're not going to balance the budget. Like I don't even think liberal voters want them to, or think they will balance the budget. Like who actually thinks they're going to balance the budget? Again, I think this is just them pretending like they actually care. Again, they told us, well, we're going to have a balanced budget, what was it, by 2018 or 2019, and it was bigger deficit than when they first started, right? And again, that was even prior to the pandemic. So again, number one, the idea that the pandemic is the reason why they have to run these massive deficits is absolutely a lie. It's a complete lie. If you want to argue that you need to have a higher deficit than they were planning, yeah, but not, what is it, like 15 times the deficit that what they were planning on running, like a $30 billion deficit or something along those lines, and it turned out to be almost a half a trillion, I think. So again, the idea that they're going to return to a balanced budget, I think, is absolute insanity. And I think the reason for that being is, number one, they don't actually plan on doing it. They'll come up with some excuse like they always do. And number two, I think they know that the economy is not going to be good coming out of this. That it doesn't matter that Canadians, oh, they have 90 billion in excess cash, just sitting on it. Like, no, the amount of people that are, I mean, if you look in the States and in Canada as well, the amount of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, has that number gotten better because of the pandemic? No, if anything, it's gotten worse. Has the amount of good paying jobs gone up because of the pandemic? No, it's gotten worse. Has the amount of jobs, period? No, it's gotten a lot worse. And again, like this is this other massive myth of just people that are absolutely insane when it comes to this whole situation, is that they genuinely believe that it's the circuit breaker mentality that, oh, you can just flip things on and off at a whim. Like, again, this is just confessions of having absolutely no idea how reality works. You can't just flip things on and off. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Um, so again, like I think that again, I mean, here's the other thing too. The only way that they balance the budget is if they cut benefits. Like, but do you actually expect the Liberal government to cut benefits? Like, of course not. That's never going to happen in a million years. So the only way that they balance the budget is if they cut spending, and that's like cutting spending like even before pandemic levels of spending, let alone post-pandemic levels of spending, right? So again, like, do you expect them to cut welfare? Do you expect them to cut maybe foreign aid? I mean, I doubt it, considering how Justin Trudeau needs to buy off all his UN buddies. But um, again, like, where are they going to cut? Like, the only way that you're going to balance the budget is if you cut spending. And where are they going to cut? Like, I mean, there's plenty of places they could cut and they should cut, but there's no way the Liberal government is going to do it. Like, again, like, how insane do you have to be to think the Liberal government, the Liberals to do? I don't think the Conservatives would do it either. I think the Conservatives would be pretty much just as bad, right? Like, Aaron O'Toole has demonstrated that he wouldn't be much better. Like, Aaron O'Toole's not standing up for all these people that have lost their jobs for no reason, over this whole situation. Aaron O'Toole's not standing up for the people that have completely lost their livelihoods for no reason because of the fake, you know what? Again, like, I don't really understand how they can say this stuff with a straight face too. Like, it really 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 shocks me that they can say this stuff with a straight face, because it's absolutely insane, if you ask me. It's absolutely insane. So anyway, in a nutshell, unless there's something I'm completely missing here, which I highly doubt it, considering the reality of the situation, there's no way they're balancing the budget. Like, there's no way they're balancing the budget. Again, even if they increase taxes, which again they already did, like they already increased taxes. So again, are you going to increase income taxes? That's going to hurt the economy. That doesn't help the economy. Are you going to increase the wealth tax? Again, that would be that's like what, 5-6 billion a year. That's going to be a drop in the bucket. That's not even close to making up what they need. So again, I don't know what they could possibly do that is actually realistic from their perspective that they could actually do to balance the budget. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I say, check out those links and stay tuned for more.